This is a Global Player original podcast.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Well, let's get back to it.
Point of order, darts is not a sport. He should have said, and in pastime news, darts not a sport. Chess is not a sport. Poker, not a sport. Golf isn't really a sport. It's just a way for men, mostly men, to spend some time away from their wives. Whoop, sexist alert.
Warning, warning.
Rishi Sunak's allies came to his defence this week after Keir Starmer claimed that the Prime Minister simply doesn't get Britain. Responding to the leader's comments, the Leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt, told the Commons on Thursday that Sunak doesn't just get Britain, he represents the best of Great Britain, in one of the weirdest speeches you will ever hear. She looked like she was reading off a script that her kidnappers had given her. Rishi Sunak is the best of Britain. He is tireless in his questioning of whether homeless people are in business, she said. He has learned how to use a credit card. Truly, he is a god amongst men. I mean, just look at those puppy dog eyes. Isn't he an absolute dream? But despite that bonkers speech from His Majesty's Carrier of Swords, a new poll suggests that an overwhelming majority of British voters agree with the Labour leader that the Prime Minister simply does not get Britain. Well, never mind about Britain. I don't think he gets Britons. Why would he? He's never met a Briton, except for a photo shoot. Oh, he's met traders and bankers and billionaires, but they're not Britons. They're from Monaco and the Caribbean and Panama. He doesn't get Britain because in his world, Britain is where you visit just long enough to meet with your wealth planner. Asked by pollsters, We Think, which is a new one on me. That's a really bad name. Pollsters. We think, yeah. It sounds like the first part of a sentence. ... Anyway, that's what they've called themselves. They probably conducted a poll to see what they should call themselves. And We Think was the the number one response. Anyway, asked by pollsters, We Think, whether the Prime Minister understands the pressures facing the average British person, 80% of those who expressed a preference said they believe that he does not, compared to just 20% who said that he does. 20% of people who were polled by We Think that the Prime Minister understands the pressures facing the average person. Who are these people? I would like to meet one of those 20% who think that the billionaire who has wafted through life on a perfumed cloud of cashmere gets how the rest of us live our lives. I mean, I bet that the very idea of how the rest of us lead our lives turns his delicate little stomach. According to the poll, 41% of Sunak's own voters say he doesn't understand the pressure facing ordinary Britons. Well, now, who are they, the voters? Because the members of the Conservative Party, they didn't want him. He was second on their list. They chose... Absolutely. God, can you imagine being second to the Blunder Truss? That's just embarrassing. 41% of Sunak's own voters say that he does not understand the pressures facing ordinary Brits, compared to 59% who say that he does. Which is the power of delusion. I mean, how can you imagine he understands what it's like to run out of money, to struggle to pay the rent, to wonder if you can afford to turn the heating on? This is how he doesn't understand. He can't quite get that we aren't the hate-filled little trolls that he wants us to be. Which is why that attack on Keir Starmer fell flat when he chirped on about him taking the knee. And then he plopped himself back on his seat, practically hugging himself. He was so delighted with what he thought was a knockout blow. Titchy Sunak. At Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister of this country said Starmer talks about what British values. I mean, this is like a quote, so it doesn't have to make perfect sense. This from a man who takes the knee, Sunak told the Chamber. But the poll found that a clear majority of British voters believe that the Labour leader was right to take the knee, by 59% to 41%. current Labour voters are even more supportive. 73% said Starmer was right to do so, compared with 27% who disagree. And it's those people that Titchy Sunak is going to have to appeal to in order to, fashion some sort of success at the next general election. People who say they're going to vote Labour. Because there's a shrinking number of people who say they're going to vote Tory. It's practically invisible. You couldn't see that number with a microscope. So he's going to have to appeal to Labour voters, and Labour voters hate him like poison. Labour voters, he's trying to appeal to them. Trouble is, Rishi Sunak's not appealing. Any more so than his wife is. And I cannot believe that this is what the Tory apparatchiks are saying that is their secret weapon, his wife. Less than a year ago, says iNews, Akshata Murthy was photographed on the school run in a £570 pair of cork slippers.
What?
You'd have to be out your mind to spend £570 on a pair of cork slippers. But with months to go before the general election campaign, Rishi Sunak's wife is more likely to be sporting a pair of sensible pumps than designer footwear, as the couple make an apparently conscious effort to play down their wealthy status to appeal to voters. Yeah, how do you expect that's going to go? Well?
No.
No. We know how rich you are. And they will do that. They will make a conscious effort to play down their wealthy status to appeal to voters by arriving in a helicopter and having members of the public carefully screened for an audience with the majestic Sunaks, because we wouldn't want anyone bringing up the state of the NHS or the roads or the crime figures or the crumbling schools or any of that. Please restrict your comments to how we don't want to go back to square one with the Labour Party and the plan is working, or whatever nonsense phrase their handlers dream up to win over the general public next. How did those slogans go down, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
Really badly. And yet they keep on repeating them, as though by repetition it's going to sound easier on the ear. We don't want to go back to square one. No, actually, that would be great. Can we do that straight away? The 43... They call her, Akshata Murthy, a 43-year-old businesswoman. The 43-year-old businesswoman has, newspaper can reveal, already started knocking on doors to drum up support for the Conservatives in the 2024 election campaign, and insiders say she will do whatever is helpful for the party as polling day draws near. Businesswoman? I thought she just got presented with £1 billion for being Daddy's little angel. I didn't realise she actually fashioned that fortune out of sheer hard work and business acumen. They believe that Ms. Murthy will be an asset to Mr. Sunak during the campaign. I cannot imagine what led them to that conclusion. A former Downing Street advisor said she should be part of a sort of shield to help humanise the image of an embattled Prime Minister who was facing more questions over his leadership from within his own party this week. Well, I mean, if a person needs humanising, then perhaps they're not the best person to do the job of running the country, which is absolutely chock full of humans. I mean, if you're so robotic and wooden and stiff and weird that you need to push out your other half to make you look less so, then maybe the problem's you, not the public's perception. I mean, if you want to use her as a shield, can we ask her about her tax affairs and her non-dom status, and if any of the companies she has shares in have benefited from government contracts while her husband has been in power, and which, if any, of the companies she owns a chunk of are still sanctioned in Russia? Can we ask any of those questions?
No.
No, I didn't think so, because Titchy will get tetchy and go all snarly and rat-like and hiss that his wife's affairs are off limits and he doesn't know anything about them. You know, like they've never met. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either she's in or she's out. The head of press for... you remember David Cameron, don't you?
No!
Yeah. Yeah, that's him. Giles Kenningham, who was head of press for David Cameron as Prime Minister and Director of Communications for the Conservative Party during the 2015 election, said the current Labour and Tory leaders had relatively little time to introduce themselves to the electorate, and members of their family could help present a more rounded image to the voter. Well, one of them can introduce himself to the public and he'll get a happy hello, and the other one quite the opposite.
Bye-bye.
I mean, it doesn't matter how round the image is they present. It's still an image of a sinking ship. I mean, they can paint that sinking ship a jaunty colour and stick a new masthead, but that boat's going down. In 2022, after it emerged she had non-dom status, Ms. Murty announced she would no longer claim the remittance basis. And I'm not remotely rich enough to understand what that means. And she would henceforth start paying UK tax on her worldwide income. She has not, however, says the I newspaper, fully given up her status as a non-dom. Huh. I've no clue what that means. But does she get the tax taken from her income before she actually receives her money? I'm expecting the answer is no. So best of luck introducing yourself to the general public and, making your husband seem relatable. You're going to need all the luck you can get.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Here are the studio calls flashing up on the indicator.
Yes, this one flashing in Guildford. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, what I was going to ring up to say is that I've been ill lately, as you know. And
How do I know that?
I told you last time I spoke. You probably won't remember. Sorry.
No, I don't listen to this show.
I had that Guillain-Barré syndrome, And what is taught, what I'm going to say is that nothing works in this country anymore.
Yeah.
It really
Tell me about
doesn't. And when you're in the position I'm in now, you see a lot, like in hospital, you see and hear the unhappiness of the nurses and the junior doctors and so on when you talk to them. It's absolutely atrocious. And then you move on to a care thing where you come out of hospital. I'm not going to talk about myself too much. I just want to give you an idea. You come out of hospital and you've got carers for about 6 weeks. Then they move you on to they means test you. And counsel and you pay. And what I experienced this week was quite horrific when you were already ill. And it was, they wanted £460 a month out of benefit money, basically. And I said I couldn't afford it. So I said, anyway, they rang me up later and said, the carers you have now will end on Sunday. And then I said, I'll have nothing after that. And they said, yes. So I reached a compromise whereby I had them 3 days a week, 2 half an hour, 1 45 minutes, and to get the price down, basically. But I don't know, it just strikes me like social workers today, they seem more like gatekeepers to the private sector.
Right.
They refer to the private sector.
And they also seem gatekeepers to the thing that you're trying to access. They're trying to weed out the numbers of people who can actually access the service. Like your GP is less like a general practitioner and more like somebody who tries to bat away those who perhaps aren't bleeding from the eyeballs.
Yeah, the GP I've got is a good GP and that, but it's not that, it's the managers, And what they've decided to do is have this, as you'll be well aware of, is this 8 o'clock rush, you've got...
Oh, in the morning,
all that, yeah.
Well, it's worse than that where I live. You can't call them on the phone. There is an 8 o'clock rush to fill out a form online. And if you don't fill it out quick enough, then you have to wait till the next day. Can you believe that?
It's awful. Well, what my point is, as I say, I give you a bit of a personal experience, but what what I'm saying is that nothing works.
Nothing works in this country anymore. Yeah, if the Labour Party had not been running this country for the last 14 years in the manner in which they had, then we really would be getting somewhere. But unfortunately, not. It's all Jeremy Corbyn's fault. Thanks a lot, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, I know. But even with chemists, I don't know what else.
Yeah, well, they ain't got no medicine no more because of, various factors, including but not limited to Brexit.
Boots are shutting down 300 chemists. I think another 13 this year. What I've been experiencing is, in our area, we had 3 chemists, you see. One was another chemist. There was another chemist nearby. They shut that down.
For your convenience,
yeah, the local chemist that we've got now, you probably will understand it, but the local chemists now, they're nice people, they're overworked, it's just terrible, but they're completely and utterly overwhelmed, and I wanted to ring up about prescription. I rang up all day one day, all day the next day, all day, trying to get through, and could never get through. When a carer went up for me, they had to, these big long queues, and they had to wait 3 hours.
Yeah, as is perfectly normal in a well-run country. None of the above is normal in a well-run country. It's just us and third world countries.
That's
no other
right.
first world country lives like this. It's absolutely extraordinary what we put up with in this country. If this kind of thing was happening in France, France would be on fire right now.
They would, yeah. I can't believe, what was it, 20% or something? I couldn't quite take it, whether the Tories were doing a good job.
Who are these people? Exactly. Yeah. Listen, Peter, I've got to go, but I wish you all the best.
Mate.
Thanks very much. Cheers for that. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, nothing works in this country anymore. Don't get me started on this. Because I've spent many, many programmes saying, name one single thing that is better now than it was 14 years ago when the Conservative Party took over. And you think we'd be able to come up with one, but not one single solitary suggestion. And I've left the phones open on this subject for 3 blooming hours on multiple programmes, and no one can think of a thing. And still they've got the nerve to come out with, well, we don't want to go back to square one with the Labour Party. Yes, actually, yes, we do. Yes, we do. It is painful. And it's not just the health service that isn't working. Schools are crumbling. Schools are so cold that children are shivering in the classroom, wearing their coats and gloves, and are so cold that they can't write properly. In this country. In this country, in 2024. It is staggering. I mean, even down to, ordinary things like driving. It took me an hour and a half to drive 10 miles this evening because of those 4-way temporary traffic lights. Oh, God. I mean, you see a sign that says temporary 2-way traffic lights, and you think, well, okay, I won't switch the engine off. I'll be moving in about 10 minutes. If it says a 3-way temporary traffic light, you think, well, I should have brought sandwiches. If it's a 4-way temporary traffic light, then you know that you can cancel all future engagements because you ain't going nowhere. And what were they protecting? Nothing. They just set up the traffic lights and then walked away. The queue's back to the moon. Oh, it is excruciating. It really is. Nothing works in this country anymore. Name one single thing that is better now than it was before the Tories took over. I mean, you think that because they spent £1.5 trillion of our money, not million, not billion, trillion. £1.5 trillion is what they borrowed since they got into power. Where's it gone? What have they done with it? Who's got it? On what have they spent it? Texts and tweets and such from last night. Tristan says, why don't we export lettuces? We can say that our lettuce has a shelf life longer than that of a Prime Minister. We could be millionaires.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's another one that thinks that we are remotely interested in anything she has to say now. I mean, talk about self-deluded. The most disastrous and briefest serving Prime Minister in the history of this country, and she still thinks that her opinion is worthy of expressing out loud. Who are these people? Who is enabling them? I want names. Johnny says, on Nicola Sturgeon's WhatsApp comments, the Telegraph demands she apologise. I demand she be knighted, says Johnny. Yeah, me too. Fortunate that Nicola Sturgeon could dredge up her old WhatsApp messages, but unfortunately Titchy Suit Size can't. This government is unable to, despite all of the security services available to it, and a hotline to whoever does WhatsApp. Who does WhatsApp now? Is it Zuckerberg or Musk or, one of those moon-faced creeps that run everything now? Yeah, apparently with the MI6 and MI5 and 4, 3, 2 and 1, none of them could manage to get the WhatsApp messages out of Titch's phone. Or Bodger's.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Who's joined up. I mean, there's another man full of delusion. Full of delusion and cake. And fancies himself in military uniform. Oh, please. You hid from breakfast television in a fridge. Who are you kidding? Is this real life or am I hallucinating? James texts, Imagine you lived in the middle of the US and you were enjoying the Republican rallies, personally armed to the teeth. You might not be too bothered about the next war in Europe. Let them get on with it. If it is really necessary, we'll help out. Seems possible, says James. What's that got to do with anything? That has absolutely nothing to do with what I've been talking about, either today or yesterday. Imagine you lived in the middle of the US and you were enjoying the Republican rallies, Donald Trump's safe space rallies, those things. Personally armed to the teeth. Well, why wouldn't you be? Rootin' tootin'. You might not be too bothered about the next war in Europe. Well, the next war in Europe, if it goes nuclear, is going to be you're going to have heavy rain all over America. And James says, wasn't Winston Churchill woke for trying to defeat a massive fascist? Yeah, that's right, yeah. They're probably woke, yeah. Speaking of Merca, Portland, Oregon. Hello, Jake.
Hey, Nick, what's up, man?
Hey, this is extraordinary. I mean, talk about things don't work in this country. It sounds like you're calling from next door. This will be the clearest line I have on this show, and you're 6,000 miles away.
It makes absolutely no sense. Couple of three things?
Yes.
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
I want the good news first.
Okay, the good news is that Trump got fined $83 million.
Yeah.
The jury went back into the room, sat down and said, yep, $83 million. $83 million. Man.
Yeah.
Yep, he's got to give it up.
Talk about a great businessman. He was fined $5 million and he managed to fashion a $5 million fine into an $83.3 million fine. He's a genius.
It's amazing. What else? Bad news. The Medicaid system here in America is just as bad as what you're talking about with the NHS. It's almost impossible to get appointments for literally anything.
Yeah, well, the difference is that we've got
problems here, too, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, no one on Earth, no country in the world would be daft enough to follow America's healthcare system, and the country that is daft enough to do it is this one that I'm speaking from, because that's where we are going.
Yeah, and it's continuing to get worse.
Yeah, I bet.
So if we're ahead of you guys 5 years, like everyone always says, then oi, good luck. What else? Oh, that whole UN or the America pulling its funding from the UN support. Oh, I just can't. I just can't anymore. Nick.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, you know what? I'm not even going to touch it. I'm not going there. The whole thing is utterly ludicrous that people are complaining. The people who have caused the destruction in Gaza are complaining about that. Just seems, well, it's just beyond a joke, really. I mean, there's nothing funny about it. Jake, got to go.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I am not one of your fans!
Simon says, some good news for you. I heard geese flying over the house this week. Summer is on its way. Yes, well, it's almost certain that summer is on its way, you know, unless there is a global thermonuclear war, in which case we're in for a long, long, long dark night. But the sun appears to be higher in the sky, and the light seems to have more yellow in it. But there's only, let's say, we've got February, March, April, May, June. Only another 5 months of winter to go. Derby, hello, Martin.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Great, mate.
I was just talking to your researcher there, and I was just saying that I think I heard earlier you talking about how Sunak's out of touch because he's so rich, right?
Well, that's one of the reasons, certainly, yes.
Yeah, but I was...
Also, he just seems to be weird as well. I mean, who doesn't know how to use a credit card, for crying out loud? How can you get to the age of being an adult and not know how to use a credit card? Rich doesn't have anything to do with it. He's just plain odd. It's like he's an alien.
But I really do think that it's important to have in positions of power, certainly in a country like the UK, it's important to have someone that's able to accumulate wealth, that's able to maybe manage their finances well, because I think it sets a precedent to the rest of the UK to manage themselves in such a way.
What, to bet against a failing bank and precipitate a financial crisis that consumed the entire world in order to make £100 million, you mean?
Well, I mean, just look at it. Look at his bank account, Nicky, and you might find out that maybe he's slightly more successful than the rest of us. I mean, he's got millions in the bank.
Okay, I don't know. Is this thing on? Hello? Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, I know, but you can.
Okay. Well, when you find his bank account, Martin, I want you to text it to me straight away because I have a lot of questions. Thanks a lot, mate. Another troll. 0345 6060 973. Don't feed the trolls. That was weak, Martin. You had 25 minutes to think of better lines than that. On hold for 25 minutes just in order to say that. And he came with a lack of preparation and thought that he could just wing it. Big mistake. Huge. Speaking of winging it, here's Jonathan in Harrow. Harrow?
Yeah, hello, Nick.
Yes,
Hi.
Jonathan. How are you?
Oh, I had 4 hours sleep for a few days because I'm so at the high stress level.
High stress level? Why is that?
Well, I'm financially teetering. I'm an idiot. I voted for the people who have made this country rubbish in a literal sense.
Right.
I'm not doing well. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. Well, so tell us about you not doing well then.
I was telling your receptionist that...
That's actually more accurate than my researcher, but yeah, go on.
I was telling him that I don't know. I don't want to bring the mood down, but well, firstly, one thing is that I was listening to your podcast, and I'm not a character. I'm a real boy. Okay,
right.
Number one.
Okay. So which podcast was that?
The Abbot
Habit. Nick Abbott Habit. Yes, because I do 3 podcasts, as you know full well.
Do you get paid for that, or can I not ask you?
No, I get paid for that. You're joking.
I'm doing so badly business-wise that I can't even buy a new Jaguar. I was looking at it second-hand. It cost $6,995.
What?
Can't afford that.
Can't afford that, no.
And the streets now in my area, because in Harrow, you've got Harrow on the Hill, which is the posh area.
Yes.
And then you've got the multicultural paradise of the real Harrow. And it is... it is just so dirty now, you know.
Oh,
because
really? How did that happen?
because the government, they're not doing nothing.
Right.
They're not doing the cleaning of the roads.
No.
They're not doing they're just trying to scare us into war, but they're not cleaning the pavement. I don't want to be dirty, but a few weeks ago, I stepped into a full nappy on the street. I'm serious.
Right. Well, you didn't. You just didn't see it there, and you were marching along, minding your own affairs, and then suddenly you were up to your ankles.
Because my shoes have literally got holes in them. Because I voted Conservative Party and a Nigel Farage's party, not because I'm a racist.
But
no, come on. But I thought they were going to be a stand against the wokies.
Yes. Well, somebody has to. Yeah.
But can I say a quick thing about, I know the economy is not doing well. I went to can I say the Tesco today. They said it was closed for unspecified reasons.
If it's Tesco's you went to, then you absolutely cannot mention that it was Tesco's. No.
And then I went to another shop where they charged me double. But the point is, can I say that I'm sorry, I apologize for what I did. But on the culture war point, this wokie issue, it is a problem.
The wokie dokies?
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Because Vivek Ramaswamy, you know, the little Indian boy, he's worth 900 million and he's standing next to the Trump.
Right.
And he wrote, he doesn't really talk about the economy, but he talks about he wrote a book called The Woke.Inc. And what it's saying is that the modern generations are too mollycoddled.
Yeah.
Because on your stations, I was talking to Ali Mirza recently, and I was telling him that this issue about war, the government are trying to scare the people, and the new generations won't be able to do the fighting because
too woke. Yeah, that's what I read.
No, because they're all very. I'll give you a quick example. I used to a few years ago.
Why are you whispering?
Because I'm about to say controversial.
Oh, right. Well, I'll grip onto something firm. Go ahead.
And this is not a homophobic point.
But?
Okay. No, but come on. And I used to live next door to a young gay chap. Mm-hmm. And he was very nicely dressed. I had lots of boyfriends. But he was a young chap. And this new generation, whether gays or non-gays, I don't think they have the fight in them, isn't it, to go on to the... I thought it was a satire first when all of your stations were saying we have to do the conscription.
Yes.
Because you will go into an office now. You will go into an office and there will be the women's there and I'm equal rights gender-wise. But come on. But you will go into an office and the woman she'll be sat there, receptionist, and if you say anything wrong, it will be quote unquote offensive.
Yes.
And then if she goes to the conscription, she will go fighting in the front line and will say what they say nowadays, the ultra-feminists. They'll say, yesterday I went to a club and I took home a strange man to my bed. This is her speaking. It's not me, by the way.
Right.
Okay, I'm not gay. No, I'm saying this is what she would say.
Can I just ask you a question about this?
Okay.
How strange was he?
Who?
The strange man.
No, I'm saying that this is the sort of things they say in an office.
Oh, I see.
They have to all be respected, and people in this country now are too comfortable. They are too...
By comfortable, do you mean fat? Because I don't think the kids are incapable of fighting because they're too woke. I think the kids are incapable of fighting because they're too unfit. Wallowing around like walruses, they will be. Like Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, if he's leading the charge, it's going to be a really slow charge.
Can I make a quick last point, if I can?
Yes.
I was reading the Tony Blair autobiography, which I bought from the charity shop. And have you read it?
No.
I'm really sorry now, because in seriousness, this country is so bad now, and I genuinely regret the fact that he was a good, except for the alleged war crimes and all of the people he talked about rudely in the book, he was a lovely man.
Yes.
And
apart from all the evidence to the contrary, great person, yes.
This country on the election day in 97, when he got elected, at midnight, one of his staff aides came up to him and said, Tony, you've done it. Anything is now possible. And in the book, he says, and I'm afraid I told him to bleep off. But apart from that, he was a lovely person. And just as a final point, can I say that in the 90s, when I come to this country, everything was perfect. Everything ran beautifully. And Tony Blair, because no offense, Nick, to you, but you and I, neither of us are spring chickens. In about 20 years, I think both of us will be the dead. So I will happily vote for Tony Blair to be dictator for 20 years rather than Dal Keir Starmer and the allegedly financial corrupt Tories. I can't call Rishi Sunak that, because Tony Blair was a masculine man, like the Obama, like the Denzel Washington.
Right, OK, well, I'll put you down for 20 years of a Tony Blair dictatorship. Thanks for voting. Appreciate it, Jonathan.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Oh, hello.
Will texts, 20% of people would still vote Conservative even if Conservative MPs hunted them for sport. That's probably true. They'd be running through hedgerows going, well, it'd be much worse under Labour. Kilburn, hello, Ellie.
Oh, hi, Nick. Sorry, let me just take your speaker. Hi, sorry about that. I had a thought yesterday. You were talking about how everything's been defunded, and I think it's actually worse than that. They've actually turned us from units of production into units of exploitation. So they no longer think of us as little individuals possibly making money for the country. They look at us as ways of sucking money out of the state for their own pockets.
Yeah, have you seen that film, The Matrix?
Yes.
Well, spoiler alert.
Warning, warning.
The government are using us as batteries. That's got to be the next thing on their list. They're going to hook us up to the national grid and use us as batteries.
There's definitely on the way to finding many, many other ways to exploit us that we haven't even thought of yet. It's really quite frightening. But hey-ho, mustn't grumble, hey?
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse, I suppose. Can't imagine how off the top of my head, but, I'm sure that it is possible. Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, Ellie. Keep your eyes peeled. 0345 6060 973. Birmingham. Hello, Shirley.
Oh, hi, Nick. I'm concerned about the media and the way it hurts Meghan and Harry. I think the public should put in real complaints, because the other day they said they spoke to a man who was anti-monarchist. Well, the man was head of state. He was the head of Jamaica. And not only that, they were at the bottom.
That's true, yes, they did. Yeah, Hazard and Sparkles were being hauled over the coals while King Charles was in hospital having his area examined. Meghan Markle and Hazard had the nerve to talk to somebody from a country that doesn't welcome the fact that they're ruled over by some far-off king that they're not familiar with.
Yeah, but in Australia, the head of state in Australia is not pro-monarchist. And it was at the Bob Marley concert. Bob Marley is a hero to everybody, and especially Jamaica. They've got this film coming out called One Love, and that was the whole idea. It was the promotion of Marley. He wasn't just a musician. He campaigned against poverty and political abuse, and especially where, without being rude...
Sounds like you just were.
I know. But
that's too much of an exaggeration, Shirley. They are just as dopey as anybody else.
Yeah, but music G'd them up. And where the CIA destroyed Jamaica, destroyed the musicians, Marley and the music did matter. So it was all about One Love, the music concert.
Right, but what's this got to do with Hazard and Sparkles? Seems like you've you started with them and then went veering off topic.
they were appearing there. They were appearing at
Yeah,
the
I know.
meeting place.
Because
And
they had the nerve to not be there by King Charles' side. Then it was a snub on their part. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the coverage of Hazard and Sparkles by the press. Yeah. It's just obscene, is what it is. Comical, really. It's like infants lashing out constantly.
Yeah, but the media said they were going to an anti-monarchist, and I think that coverage is wrong, it's spiteful, it's destructive. And by the way, do get hold of Omid Scobie's book, because it's not anti-royalist.
Well, let me ask you about this, Shirley. Is it a book?
Yeah.
Well, then no. I'll wait till the video comes out. But thanks for the good advice. Cheers, Shirley. 0345 6060 973. Edward texts, if fishy suits eyes resorts to calling up oldies like me to fight for unruly Britannia, I'm going to take up a new hobby, collecting all the white feathers I'll be handed. Yeah, well, don't worry, because Bodger Johnson has everything under control.
I can't comment on that.
Yeah, he managed to find a uniform that actually comes in his size. So he's at least got a head start. Yeah, he's going to sign up for national service. Yeah, sure he will. Because, that's him all over. Selflessly putting himself out for others. Doesn't that sound like Bodge? No. Not really, no. I wonder if the Daily Mail have got buyer's remorse yet, because that column, he's just phoning it in, isn't he? I bet he's laughing his face off that they were so dopey as to give him a contract. Merthyr Tydfil, hello, Jeff.
Well, Nick, how are you?
Great, mate.
I noticed that they're rounding up the French at Baynard Point, French of Britnats out there, and driving them out to France now. Like they've been doing it with the Spanish Britnats. But before you have a surfeit of gloating, there would be a number in there that didn't vote for Brexit, if you know what I mean.
Well, I was looking it up just for the programme, and it's difficult to know exactly, but it looked like the majority of people who are expats living in Europe did not vote for Brexit. Because they would be pretty dumb of them to have done that. But they were. But they're suffering from it anyway.
Well, I did meet a few. And if they're stupid, and there's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, some good news for you. Anyway, I got some good news. Your mighty tome, weighty tome, thudded into the welcome mat through the letterbox. I can give my recommendation to your listeners. It's quite amusing, but I don't think it's a threat to the rainforest.
That's right. You can still buy my new book, which is called Perfectly Normal in a Well-Run Country, from a website that rhymes with Amazon, and feel that you are not single-handedly destroying the Amazon rainforest. That is correct, yeah. Particularly if you buy it on ebook form, which is available for hippies.
Exactly. So the end result of all this nonsense, there was a rerun of Mogg and James O'Brien from 2018, where they were, or just prior to the...
Oh, yeah. Whatever. I saw that today.
Yeah, and it was very interesting in that because he's got this posh accent.
Yes, a strangulated, put-on, phony accent that
entirely.
He's been using for so long, he doesn't know where it starts and he begins.
Yep, and totally and utterly he has refused to accept that he wouldn't answer James O'Brien. James asked him about 82 times. Hey, look, give me an answer to that one about Minfoot, the so-called massive, huge economist, who was the sole economist in the whole of the UK that supported Brexit.
Yeah, which should be some sort of sign, a bell should toll. If there's only one expert that says it your way, then maybe everybody else might have a point.
But he actually said that British agriculture and the motor industry will be destroyed.
Yeah.
And he was there, man. I mean, it's just so unbelievable.
And what Smug does is he just continues to talk regardless of whether the interviewer is trying to pose a question. And Smug, he will just fill the air with noise, like in that condescending way of his, which has shut ordinary people up. But it didn't shut James O'Brien up. He matched him syllable for syllable. Exactly.
So let's take it to the end result. Why doesn't Starmer he has said, yes, we'll make it work. We'll have better relationships with Europe.
Yeah.
But he needs to go a little bit further than that, I think, because there has to be some principle involved.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's concerned about screwing it up, being so far ahead and fashioning the worst loss in political history. So that must keep him up at night. So he's doing tremendously well, not really putting himself out there very much. I mean, he has ideas just as much as the Tory party say they have a plan. I mean, the Tories say they have a plan. What it is, we've got absolutely no idea, but they keep telling us it's working. So it must be a pretty insidious plan, because nothing else in this country is working. But if Starmer's, he must feel if he comes out and takes a controversial position on something, then it might affect this polling come the next election. But the majority of people in this country recognise that Brexit's been a total failure, and so would not actually mind somebody, just anybody from a major political party, chiming in and mirroring that opinion. That he doesn't is, I don't know, it's an admission of weakness, I think, not of him personally, but his position. He feels he is not on solid ground yet. Maybe when he gets in, he will feel more comfortable taking positions like that.
Well, I sincerely hope so, Nick. But if he hasn't taken any position on it, then he's not tied to doing anything, I suppose. And what I would dearly love to hear would be some sort of commitment, to... I mean, he said we want to make better relations. So what on earth that means, I have no idea. But he has to... Look, the country is going down the tubes. You're going to have to get back into Europe somehow.
Yeah, well, it's such... well, exactly. And Australia and New Zealand. I mean, Canada's laughing at us, and we flounced out of that. You remember that we wanted a Canada-style deal with the European Union? You remember that? We can't even get a Canada-style deal with Canada.
Exactly. We just... It's so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, when he gets into power, he will have a dismal scenario to try to cope with, because the Tories are going to make it as difficult as they possibly can. They're going to plant minefields everywhere. Everywhere he steps is going to be like another bomb. And so the easiest win in the world will be to fashion a closer relationship with the European Union. So we'd have to assume that unless he is absent all of his marbles, that is precisely what he'll do. He's just fearful of saying so out loud because of the 3 or 4 votes from the mouth breathers that he might lose as a result.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
Nick texts, did you see the Environment Agency going after the little man who was minding his own business catching fish from a river? Yes, I did. You got this guy who was dressed up like he was staging an invasion, or his military gear, and is busy prosecuting some poor bloke who's on a foldable stool, minding his own affairs, fishing a river. Nick says he's probably doing the fish a favour. That's right. Yeah, pulling it out of that hot-flowing sewage.
Disgusting.
He says, why are these clowns not finding those water companies who are doing real damage to our waterways? Perfectly normal in a well-run country, says Nick. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just ridiculous. I mean, the only thing that surprises me is that they weren't prosecuting the people who brought this to our attention on Twitter, because it's always shoot the messenger, because, that works. Yeah, the Environment Agency going after a man who was pulling... I don't even know if he was pulling fish out the river. What difference does it make? We got companies who have borrowed something of the order of £56 billion on the assets, our water industry assets that we gave them, and having borrowed £56 billion, they then gave themselves 70-odd billion pounds in dividends and bonuses for excellence in being them. And the real criminal is some bloke who's just whiling away the day with a stick and a hook in the river. God, this place, I mean, it's gone beyond a joke, really. Rose texts, when do we say we have reached rock bottom with these amoral gangsters posing as a political party? These people with their studied creation of poverty, their removal of social structures, theft of public wealth, imposition of parasitic, useless companies upon every corner of the national fabric. Wow, this is very verbose, Rose. Maybe now, finally, at the re-emergence of scurvy, a disease that killed thousands before it was found to be a simple vitamin deficiency, what do these dregs of humanity posing as a government plan to do with the carcass of our country when they've exhausted their efforts? Leave, I suppose, decamp with their wealth to tax havens various, says Rose. Okay. And that's all the time we have on this show. 0345 6060 973. Maidenhead, hello, Paul.
Hello, Nick.
Paul.
Great show.
Thanks.
First off, I loved Rose's point. She nailed it, didn't she?
Which one?
Rose, your last message.
Yeah, but which point, though?
All of them.
All of them?
I would say.
Right, okay.
And Bob Marley, your previous caller,
yes,
was talking about Marley. He died of toe cancer, didn't he?
No.
No?
I'm not familiar with that, no.
Okay. Well, I think it was. Maybe we were right, we were wrong. Question, Tony Blair.
Wow, you're all over the shop. Tony Blair now, okay?
Okay, we're going on to Tony Blair. Do you think he's right, or do you think he was right or left wing?
Compared to who?
Compared to anything, like right or left? Because I think he was right wing. I think.
Well, do you think he's right wing compared to Rishi Sunak?
Rishi Sunak, can't he? Look, has he got a 32-inch chest or something?
Does that have a relation to his right or left wingery? No. How about? Do you think he's right or left wing compared to David Cameron?
I think he's more right.
You think that Tony Blair is more right wing than David Cameron?
Yeah.
And what leads to that conclusion?
Weapons of mass destruction. He involved us with Iraq. It was all a load of rubbish. And he took us into wars that we didn't need to do. Hundreds of people died. Well, and he's sitting on this high horse.
The thing with the weapons of mass destruction
he's got 24-hour security, which costs the taxpayer millions.
That's the same
year.
with every ex-PM.
Yeah, well, it's not right, Nick.
No, I agree with you.
Right.
It isn't right. No, I think it's completely correct in every respect. He's got plenty enough money to afford his own security, so I'll agree with you there. But weapons, you keep asking me that. It depends on who you're comparing him to. Do I think he's right or left wing compared
Margaret
to Margaret Thatcher? Well, that would be left then. I think we can both agree on that.
Thatcher, the milk stealer. Do you remember when she came into power, she took all the milk off the shelves for the kids?
Yes, I do recall that, yes.
Margaret
Thatcher. Milk.
Thatcher. Milk snatcher.
Snatcher is the correct answer, yeah. No, left wing compared to Margaret Thatcher, I'd say. I think he's a centrist. And people keep going on about weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein used weapons of mass destruction on his own people. It wasn't a question of whether he had them or not. He had them, and he used them. It's just that he didn't have them when we went to search for them. But we knew that he had them because he killed thousands of people with them. And if your intention, Paul, was to blame the what's ailing this country on Tony Bloomin' Blair, then I think that our time together is over. But appreciate it. 0345 6060 973. Albert says, Sunak couldn't care less about the public. He should take notice of the Prince and Princess of Wales. They actually go out of their way to meet the masses and do it with a smile. Yeah, they leave in a oh God, what's a line of cars called? A car, not a cortege, a caravan of cars, but that doesn't really fit either. What's a line of cars called?
What's that?
I didn't know. Anyway, they leave in they leave one of their palaces in a fleet of Rolls Royces to go to a food bank to have their photograph taken. Yeah, that's really helping. Marion says, I'm so enjoying your rant tonight on the Sunaks. I'm one of those old pensioners who it is believed will vote Conservative. No way, says Marion. I have never been so angry with the direction of politics in my country. Everything is broken. Correct Amundo. Marion is right. Everything is broken. Name one thing that is better now than it was 14 years ago. That has some the government has had some bearing on. I'm not talking about football or anything like that. Don't say Manchester City. Name one thing that is better now than it was before the Conservatives took over, that they have had some control over. I bet you can't. Betcha you can't. Let's have Edinburgh. Donny.
Hello?
Yes, Donny.
Hello? I can give you one thing.
Yes?
The Scottish government that we have, we still have a free NHS and prescriptions are all free for everybody in Scotland.
Right. But that's specifically because the Conservative Party haven't had access to those, to making those rules.
Well, no, they have, because they've been the government for all them years.
Yeah, but the Tory party have not given the good people of Scotland free education and free prescriptions.
No, because we got devolution in 1998.
Right. Yeah.
After Tony Blair and all the big new Labour movement got in.
Right.
And they gave us a vote.
Yeah. So how is that the doing of the Conservative Party?
Well, no, as I was saying, it's one thing they haven't been able to take away from us.
Right.
So,
right. Okay. Well, that's less a positive and more the absence of a negative, which I don't think is the same thing.
Well, that's all
But anyway, let's not fall out about detail, Donny. What is it you wanted to say?
I want to talk about Michelle Moon.
Okay.
Yeah. We're talking about Michelle Moon. And she's had all assets frozen and things and stuff.
Not all assets, I'm sure, but some.
Her business assets. Her and her husband. Everything about all that, everything in with the PPE and the whole country, the whole world basically was going through this big crisis. And everyone was panic. What are we going to do? And people like Michelle Moan and her husband went okay, how can we make money? That's basically what they did.
Well, they, I mean, I don't really want to get into it for obvious reasons, but I'm sure that uppermost in their mind was, how can we help? Thanks for all the help, Michelle. Appreciate it. Cheers, Donny. 0345 6060 973. Mido texts, this country doesn't work. It just works for the Conservative Party and their donors. It doesn't work for normal people like us, says Mido, who is describing himself as normal, apparently. Well, the jury's out, Mido. Neil says, regarding better things under the Conservative, bank heads pay. Lauded Russian oligarch-linked persons. Johnson-linked barbers' quality of life. Turn that frown upside down, says Neil. Is that any of that make sense?
No.
No, I didn't think so. There's a text coming up that you want the one you put in blue. Why have you put it in blue?
I didn't. It was just in blue.
Oh,
in
it
the
arrived.
email.
It arrived
came
that way. Oh, I see. Right. Well, does it require editing? I wonder, because it's about 68 pages long. Mike says, "What are your thoughts on going to war with Putin? Do you think that we should start learning judo like tough guy Vlad the Lad?" Yeah. Well, I'm sure that he's not going to put himself in harm's way. He likes those judo partners that know how to lose. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Cornwall. Malcolm.
Hello, Nick. How are you doing, sir?
Great, mate.
We've only got a minute. Do you want to come to me after the news, sir?
The news?
Yeah.
No, we ain't got no news on 1:15.
All right. Well, what happens at 1:15? Nothing. There's no break. Advert.
Oh, adverts. Yes. Well, we will be enjoying a short advert in a moment. You would actually prefer us to enjoy it now?
Yeah.
Then your wish is my command.
LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, let's get back to it.
And by it, I mean Malcolm in Cornwall. Malcolm.
Thank you, Nick. Many thanks, mate. Nick, I ring on a topic which is quite close to my heart and of which we've spoken about previously more than once. And it's a story that features tomorrow in the Sunday Times. Fair play to them. And it's universities, Nick. And some weeks ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, I spoke to you about the fact that I suspected that our universities, British universities, and the government, either in cahoots or, by sheer accident, one was saying we need less Mickey Mouse courses, and the other was saying we need more students from overseas. Yeah. And those two prongs of attack are, in my view, badly affecting our own young people in that this year, again, there's been a drop in the percentage of people at university being British citizens. So, in other words, we've got less of our British young people there, and we've got more people who are foreign students at our university.
Right, because
now,
they're the ones with all the money, honey.
Yeah. Yes, but this isn't my big point, Nick. My big point is that the people, me included, up until, like I said, a few months back, we just were twigging this of what on earth was going on. And it is, as you just said, it's all about the money, honey. But what's happening, Nick, and I've got further insight into this because someone close to me did something called an access course at university. So it was my daughter. She did an access course to university in psychology.
What's an access course?
Yeah, they're called access courses. So you go to a sixth form college and you do an access to a degree course.
Oh, it preps you. It's like a preparation.
Yes.
Right.
But it's to a certain standard, and it is to the entry-level standards for British people to go to British universities.
Yeah.
So it's an access course. Now, for my daughter, it was a one-year course, and it was a psychology access course. Now, in that course, she was taught lots of stuff as well as the psychology to get her up to an A-level, yeah? So she did an A-level and more, because she was only doing it in psychology. Now, what's happening, Nick, is foreign students are being offered an access course with, in the beginning, very, very low O-level grades to get onto this access course. But then this access course that they're giving to foreign students, Nick, that course then enables the foreign student to go into the second year of a degree. So my daughter, she did her access course, 1 year. Then she got on to the first year of a 3-year degree, or 4-year degree in her case, right? Well, these foreign students, they're doing a 1-year access course with less qualifications than British students need. And fairly, the times are alleging, fairly easy exams on this access course. The university part of this is, the university then are allowing these students who they are having on these access courses to go into their second year of a degree course. So they're bypassing our first-year students who, in all likelihood, have done 3 A-levels and have to get A's, B's, and probably at least C's to get onto the university degree, right? So our people are being bypassed. They're being sidetracked for these foreign students who are doing a 1-year easier access
Right,
course.
but only sidetracked if they don't get to go on the course at all. I mean, I don't know. I've got no idea about whether there's a difference between the two courses for foreign students and home students. I've got no idea. But if the foreign students go straight into the second year, then who's going to be in the first year? I mean, you've got to have a similar number of people in the first year, so all the Brits will go into the first year, and the foreign students can go into the second year, and good luck to them.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, Nick. But there are so many, and the part I mentioned to you before is there are so many universities, there's so many seats in classrooms in all the universities in Britain, okay? So if you've got X number of foreign students, then you've only got enough for the total minus X of British students, yeah?
Right. But if they don't get the foreign students, then universities won't be able to, coin it in like they are, and they are essentially subsidising British students. You could think of it like that. Well, you could think of it like that.
I don't think they are, Nick. I don't think that our students are being subsidised by foreign students. My daughter, for example, has got £30,000 of student debt, and she got in before the rates were raised to £9,000 a year. She paid £3,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, our kids, Nick, if you've got 60 kids paying £9,000 a year for a degree course, 60 times 9,000 is what, Nick? It's £360,000, is it not?
Well, carry the one, and over 2 is like 8.
No, I think 9 6 54, 540,000. Sorry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
If you say so.
But the point I'm making is that if there's £500,000 for every £500,000 for every 60 students in a university, is that not enough to pay for the rent of a classroom?
I've got no idea. I mean, I don't know, and you don't know. But it seems to me that if a university is just about struggling to get by, and let's assume that that is the case, and they have a large contingent of foreign students, then you could say that those foreign students are subsidising British students. Now, I personally think that, especially for a course like psychology, which is the one that you mentioned, I think that £9,000 is too much, because there's no equipment that needs to be bought, there's no labs, there's no mechanical engineering buildings, there's none of that. It's just a classroom, and you don't really get many lectures, and I know that this is true because I did 4 years of it myself, psychology.
Yeah, no, but the point I'm making is, Nick, that the British students are being told that there's going to be lots of courses removed from the menu, right? So that those courses no longer exist. So that the seats in the classrooms that were offered for those courses, those seats are still in the universities. But there aren't any kids to put on those seats because those courses, they don't exist anymore.
Right, but where is the evidence that those courses don't exist anymore? I mean, I know that the government have made a big song and a dance about removing what they call Mickey Mouse courses, but most of the people in the government studied Mickey Mouse courses like philosophy and politics. I mean, come on, these and history. I mean, I know that these are important subjects, but how are you going to make a living having studied politics or history or philosophy, other than A, being a teacher, or B, going into politics?
Nick, the argument that foreign students are subsidising students is an absolute red herring, because the point I'm making is, and the reality is, that there are less places for British people at British universities, because the universities and the government are in favour of this, are clearly saying, let's get more and more of these foreigners in, foreign people in, because they pay a lot more, we can make a lot more. Yeah. And the big problem for me, Nick, is the way that they are lowering the standards for people from overseas to come in, because if you read the article, it says that the people who are getting on with a few low-grade GCSEs onto an access course.
Right.
Then the second year of a course.
Okay,
right?
but that's their lookout, though, isn't it? I mean, if they're paying for a shoddy education, then maybe they should be asking for their money back, or maybe the message will get through to their compatriots back home that these are not institutions that they want to be throwing money at.
No, Nick, the foreign people are getting their money's worth.
How do you know? But you've just described that they aren't. That you've just said that they're doing shoddy courses and they don't have the qualifications to start. And if they weren't that bright to start, then they 3 or 4 years of university isn't going to fashion a genius out of them.
No, I'm not casting aspersions about their ability. No, Nick, hold on, listen. What I'm saying is, right, they're getting onto the courses. They may be perfectly good students.
Yeah, I get it. Like one foreign student is one less British student.
Yes.
Yes, I get that.
But the point is, Nick, the universities are saying to British kids, you need 3 A's or a pair of A's and a B.
Right.
Whereas the foreign students, they are getting...
Right. Okay. So you need 2 C's and £100,000 is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Bingo. So, like I said, that's how they're making money. Anyway, Malcolm, it's been it's been a long time talking about that. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Rebecca texts, have you seen that after the snow and the storms, we're about to get a dumping of Saharan dust? Saharan dust?
Oh, no.
Look out your mankini. Look out your mankini. What does that mean? I haven't got a mankini. How would you look out of one? Maybe get out your mankini? Is that what you're talking about? Well, it's not about to get warm, is it? I thought it was about to get freezing cold. I thought we had a 500-mile wide wall of snow on the way. Like something out of Game of Thrones. There you go. I was trying to think of that. Wow. Look at that. Hey, it's getting warmer, everybody. I mean, ridiculously warm for January, February. When's January? What day of the next week is January?
It's January now, mate.
No. January now?
What?
February is what I meant. When's February?
Thursday.
Thursday, is it? Right. Okay, so the 1st of February is going to be 11 degrees. That's unusual, isn't it? It's more unusual if you look at the low. The low on Thursday is going to be 10. That's amazing. Actually, 11 is Wednesday. Thursday is 14. I mean, that's getting on for 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And the low is 10. Blimey. Well, the whole world's gone insane. 0345 6060 973. Saharan dust, that's where it's coming from, eh? Sam says, the idiot who rang to say Rishi is good with his money, so would be a good Prime Minister, has forgotten something important. Rishi became so rich because he married a very rich wife, whose daddy made her a lot of money. I wouldn't call that being a good role model, to be honest, as neither him nor his wife worked for their money. They had it handed to them. Well, Tichy Suit Size did actually work, in inverted commas, for his money by betting against an institution that precipitated the financial crash that we, as a planet, are still desperately trying to get out of. But he and his sort made hundreds of millions of pounds out of it. Now, I wouldn't call that work myself. I would call that gambling. He gambled, and he got lucky. And now he's a bazillionaire, because he married somebody who's got even more money than he does, by dint of being even luckier than he was. Because she didn't work for it. She didn't even gamble for it. She just got presented it. So, yeah, neither of them are top of my role model list. No, not now, not ever, never. Not role models. Unless you want to gamble for a living, in which case, absolutely.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. Rachel texts, actually, it's an odd way to start, actually, The way we are being forced to live is no laughing matter, but extremely stressful, says Rachel. Every breath we take now has to be done online. Is it? We need an app and a portal for every single task. It is impossible to speak to a human being to sort out a problem.
Affirmative.
Yet we all have to pay for a smartphone and broadband. How will the elderly cope with this? I hate it, but there is no longer anywhere to run to, says Rachel. The far right is everywhere. Yeah, well, I think that the stories about the far right, the rise of the far right, have been perhaps overstated. And particularly in relation to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not as well liked as people have invited themselves to believe. I mean, half the Republican Party can't stand him. They're holding their nose, and not just because of the stench coming off him from that fake tan that he uses on his face, or whatever that is. It seems to be getting a darker and darker shade. He looks like he's putting it on with a trowel now. Weird that so many manly men and women in America love a guy who is so keen on makeup. Woolwich, hello, Richard.
Oh, hi, Nick. Thanks for taking my call.
Richard.
I just love the fact, sorry, just thinking and musing, that guy you just had on, he answered the phone, and the first thing he told you is to go to the adverts. I just thought that was hilarious.
Well, he had a lot to say.
And probably a reflection of what he had to say as well, yeah. But I was also thinking, Bodger studied fairy tales, and he, of course, went on to do amazing things.
Exactly. That's precisely what he did. He studied fairy tales.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And people who study fairy tales, the classics, they think of themselves as so superior to us ordinary people who don't know fairy tales.
Exactly. Look, a lot of people coming on a bit ranty tonight, I know that. And I've also got a bit of a rant. And it's going back to this subject of audiences. Because I went to...
People.
People, but in general. I had a really weird audience experience tonight. I went to La Boheme at the Royal Opera House tonight.
Oh, opera.
The opera. Well, yeah, it can be, but La Boheme is brilliant because it's the love story, it's the tragedy at the end. It's all amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people just waddling about on stage screaming at you. It's not for me, no.
You Philistine. But, well, and it wasn't for a lot of people in the audience, because I think the thing is I've been twice. I love it so much. I was there at the midweek, and I went again tonight.
Blimey.
And
how much did that cost? Where were you? Hang on a minute. Where were you sitting?
No. I wasn't even sitting. I was standing. No.
So you must have been way up in the gods.
No, you see, for those in the know, there's some beautiful standing places right in the stalls.
Are there?
And you get and they're sort of 25 pounds, but they are just, you get the experience of the 300 pound seats. And if you're prepared to just stand there, it's just amazing. You get the full experience.
How long does it last?
Yeah, I know. So that's the downside of it all. So tonight was 2.5 hours.
Oh.
I've done Wagner, and I've done that for 5 hours standing.
Standing? Good grief. That sounds like a cruel and unusual punishment. I bet they wouldn't even give you that in Abu Ghraib.
The most I stood was at the prom, and I stood for 6 hours doing some Berlioz, and that I felt it there.
Painful.
Yeah, I really. Yeah. But I'm pretty good. But the thing about the audience tonight was the amount of people who were like completely into each other, shall we say, delicately.
Oh.
I mean, they were just, I know, so it's La Boheme, and I know it's a love story and all the rest of it, but you just don't kind of want to see people just smooching and ruffling their hair and looking at each other sort of like love forlorn and all the rest of it. It was such a turn off. And it's happened twice. So I don't know if it's just Puccini that does it, but I've noticed this a lot. That the public affection...
Was that one of the bloke's names? Puccini? He was probably taking somebody who wasn't his wife, wasn't he? Having a bit of a smooch? Yeah.
That's it, bit of smooch. It probably was. But I mean, public affection is one of the things that I've noticed now in audiences. And I find it bizarre, I must say. I don't want to see that kind of thing.
Which is my thought about opera. I don't want to see that kind of thing.
You dreadful man.
But yeah, I mean, the problem, the mistake you made, Richard, was going to a place where a lot of people will be, because I've met people and I'm not that keen. No one knows how to behave anymore.
You go to the cinema a lot, don't you?
No, I don't. I do not go to the cinema a lot. I'll go maybe once a year, and, if there's a new Mission Impossible film out or a James Bond, something like that, something that will show me £100 million worth of stuff blowing up on screen. That's what I like to see. Car chases and, I want to really get my money's worth. But I will go midweek at about 2 in the afternoon when I can be absolutely guaranteed that there'll be no one else there.
Except some old person snoring or something in the front.
Yeah, well, those films are loud enough that you can drown those out as long as they're not sitting right next to you.
Yeah. I went... The worst audience experience I ever had was in the summer. I like to go to the proms a lot. Somebody took their kid.
Yeah.
Out there. So there's like a toddler, so screaming its head off. And they took their kid to Shostakovich's 10th Symphony, which was the most bizarre thing. I can imagine if it's like a little bit of Mozart or something, and but Shostakovich. And to shut the kid up, and I don't know how to say this delicately, Nick, but she breastfed the kid.
Oh.
And she was in the choir's part of the Royal Albert Hall. So the entire audience was just staring at this situation.
And her kid was taking a day off from his studies at university as well. Can you believe that? Richard, I've got to go. But thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, don't go to anywhere where there's people. People.
Dreadful.
Awful. No one knows how to behave anymore. No, I prefer to watch my films at home, where you can pause them and you can, make a nice cup of tea, you can go to the loo, and no one will interfere with your business. And, it would be great, as long as you can understand what they're saying. God, I finally caught up with Oppenheimer. You tell me what they were saying on that film. I've absolutely no idea. I had to ditch the speakers and put headphones on just so I could understand, the odd word that they were saying. The whole thing was done like this. Nobody acts anymore opens their mouth at all. And very, very important things they say, and you can't really pick up a single solitary thing they say because nobody opens their mouth anymore. They just speak through their lips. Why actors can't open their mouth anymore just to, make the audience understand what it is they're saying, a very, very important part of the story, I've absolutely no idea, but this is how all films sound like. Painful. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Glasgow. Chrissy.
Hi, Nick.
Chrissy.
Do you never think about putting the subtitles on? Would that help?
Well, I suppose it would help, but that would be admitting defeat. Wouldn't it? The only time I've ever put subtitles on was during The Wire. Have you ever seen The Wire?
I've not, actually.
Okay,
no.
Brilliant programme. But there's one particular character, she's a woman, hit person. It's very difficult to tell until they told us that the person was a woman. I didn't realise that because very, aggressive and dresses like a bloke and acts like a bloke and walks like a bloke. Seemed like a bloke to me.
Sexist.
But apparently, I know. But apparently it was a hit person. You could not understand a single solitary word that woman was saying, like at all. And only when she was on did I have to put on the subtitles to figure out who it was that she was executing on that particular episode.
I do wonder when they churn movies out. I know what you mean about the mumbling, because whenever I watch a movie that's got mumbling, actually, it makes me almost instantly angry because I know it's going to go the whole way through, and it really, really annoys me. So I've got to put subtitles on or something.
And that Oppenheimer is a long film.
Well, it is, but you think about how many eyes and hands and everything that went through before it was released.
Right.
Why did nobody say, this is too muttery? We can't understand. This is too muttery.
Yes. I mean, it was extreme. I mean, there's a lot of muttering going on, on TV and in the films. But Oppenheimer was just ridiculous. I mean, nobody opened their mouth when they were speaking during that entire film, and it was a bit of a hard slog, to be honest. I mean, it was up against Barbie as the major release of last year, and I'd have to say that Barbie was a lot more fun. Oppenheimer was just basically a close-up of a man losing his mind, to present that as mass entertainment, I thought was stretching it a bit.
Well, but if you're trying to tell me that it's a surprise that Barbie was more fun compared to the invention of the atom bomb, newsflash.
But the thing was, it wasn't really about the invention of the atom bomb. It was just a study. No, it really wasn't. It was a study of a man who was going insane.
Oh, I see. I thought it was just all about the Manhattan Project and stuff.
It really wasn't. No? I was expecting a lot of, very pretty explosions and, some technical talk and all the rest of it. It wasn't. It was about a man's internal mental struggle. And
that explains the muttering, because he's been going, he's talking to himself.
Yeah, and he can't understand a word he's saying.
That's because he's talking to himself. It's an internal monologue. Yeah. Maybe that's what it was. I'm struggling with something I need your help with.
Go on.
I can't, and maybe other people can help me with this as well, as much as I have got a completely visceral contempt for Tories.
Of course.
And I mean, I almost become aroused at the idea of them all at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. I mean, that's how much I really hate them.
Right.
I'm struggling to reconcile the idea that they're going to salt the earth behind them for Labour. I don't see why they would do that. I keep slot rattling from one to the other. I can't. No, I'm not.
You can't see why they would do that? I'll tell you why they would do it. Oh, you can?
Well, no, I can see why they would do it, but I can also see reasons why they wouldn't.
Name one.
And, well, because they know, or surely they must know, that 5 years isn't a long time. Yeah. And things have become so bad right now. Nobody's memory is going to be so warped and everything in 5 years' time. They're going to become rose-tinted and go, oh, I remember when it was better under the Tories. Yeah. It's not. People will remember. And we all know that in the next 5 years, Labour's probably not going to make a huge, inroads to clearing up some of this mess. They'll probably do what they can.
Yeah.
Exactly, they'll do what they can, but that will not be fast enough for some people, and they'll get impatient. But hopefully, the masses will remember.
So you mean that the Tories will, in 5 years' time, take over the ruined country that they ruined if they salt the earth in the way that you've described?
If people were daft and didn't remember that, but they will. So the Tories are not going to make it as
I'm not
bad
sure. Well, what do people remember about Tony Blair? One thing, the war. They don't remember anything else. I mean, I could use an entire 3-hour programme telling you the benefits of New Labour and their relatively brief period in power and how it changed the country. But nobody remembers a single solitary thing apart from the war. So, people remember what they are prepped to remember, and the right-wing press are going to they're going to lower their cannons and start pounding an incoming Labour government. From day one, they will blame them for everything that is wrong with this country. So I don't think that there is anything holding them back from pouring salt in the petrol tank of this country. I think that they will do that and delight in doing it. Chrissy, gotta go.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
some nobodies.
Nige texts a list of things that have improved under this Conservative government. 1, Man City have won more trophies than ever before in their history. Yeah, I refer you to my comments I made right at the beginning of the show when I threw this one out. Again, for about the 56th time, I've thrown this out as something for you to respond to. Not a topic necessarily, but, just a thought. Name one single thing that has improved under the last 14 years of Conservative government. And I said, do not mention Man City, because that has had nothing to do with the government. And there he went and did it anyway. 2, rubber dinghy sales have grown exponentially. And 3, well, it's not much of a list, but Rishi Sunak is gripping it.
I'm gripping it.
Rishi Sunak. That's a good one. Why didn't I think of that? Kerry texts. Kerry from Maerdy. Maerdy. Maerdy? No idea. Anyway, one thing that is better now than it was before the Tories came in is their bank accounts. That's true too, yes. Yeah, they're doing exceptionally well, says Kerry from Maerdy. With regards to them getting Rishi's wife out in front of the public, we had Operation Big Dog for Boris. Is this Operation Save the Chihuahua? Yeah, it's going to take a lot more than that to save him. Jill says, Reece Smug is a DIY aristocrat. He got it at Wickes. Did you get it at Wickes?
I didn't know anything.
He didn't know anything. Wants to get his money back. Let's have Highgate. Nina.
Hello, good evening, Nick.
Nina.
Hello. Sorry to trouble you again.
Again?
Yeah, well, I know I called you about jigsaw puzzles the other night. I hope you...
Oh, right. No, I'm still struggling with the jigsaw puzzle. I'm still not quite enjoying it, but I'm thinking that perhaps as a way of staving off any further mental enfeeblement, I'd better get used to doing it because, it's something new.
Okay, moving on from jigsaw puzzles. Go see a film, watch the cinema.
Go and see a film, watch the cinema.
Well, you know what I mean. Go into the cinema, watch a film. Dear England, all about football, mental health, fun. You'll be on your feet. Happy days.
It's not a film, though, is it? It's a theatrical production.
Yes, I know. But anyway, you can go into the cinema, watch a play in the cinema.
Yeah, that's...
Have a happy time. Nobody there, like your own private cinema, because it'll be in the day, like 12 o'clock.
No.
Period.
No, it won't. No, when they... and I think it's a brilliant idea, by the way, that... there's an echo on this line, Nina. Have you noticed?
No.
Yeah, it's highly suspicious, Nina. I think somebody's tapped your line. Or mine.
Oh, could be the government. Could be the government.
Yeah, gosh, I hope that no one's listening to this.
But happy days.
Yes.
Cinema,
all right.
Dear England.
Okay.
Have a good time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Nina. Got to go because that echo is just too annoying. See what I'm saying? Nothing works in this country. I had a call from 6,000 miles away. It's been the clearest call I've had come from Oregon. Everybody that's called from this country, it sounds like they're ringing me from a submarine. Yeah, that is a brilliant idea, and I'm amazed that more people aren't taking that up because they will film a theatrical production and then put it in the cinema because, not everybody can afford to go to the theatre. I mean, who can afford... I mean, some of the prices for theatrical shows now, it's just absolutely preposterous. That cabaret thing, it's like 300 quid for a seat if you want to be within spitting distance of the stage. And that's just ridiculous. So not everybody... Even the cheap seats in a theatre now are like 50 quid. So, people can't afford it. And people can't get to London. I mean, they live here, there and everywhere, baby. And so what a brilliant idea. Take the show to the people via their cinema and, charge them a reasonable 15, 20 quid, whatever it might be. And you would think that a person putting on a theatrical production would make more money from that than they would from the actual show. I mean, at least it would be, increasing their revenue stream. But so very few people actually do it. I would have expected every show on stage to do that, and bands as well. I mean, bands these days cost a blooming fortune. So it just doesn't make any sense to me that very, very few of them are actually taking advantage of that technology. Cats did it years ago, is the message from next door. How did cats do that? Did dogs know? Way ahead of you, dogs. You're playing catch-up, like that bloke used to say on that afternoon TV quiz show, where people from abroad would answer questions in English and beat the English team. Embarrassing? Yeah, a little bit. Lynn says, I was better off under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, even after the financial crash of 2007-8, and that I've ever been in my life. I read that wrong, but in fairness, Lynn, that was a torturous sentence. I was better off under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, even after the financial crash of 2007-2008, that I've ever been in my life, says Lynn. We've been pedal to the metal on a downward slide ever since, and the destruction of public services, along with wage stagnation and massive inflation, makes me powerless as well as too poor to put the heating on, says Lynn. Right, well, it ended on a little bit of a sad note there. Wasn't expecting that. I believe I've been sideswiped. Phil says, do you consider the marriage, brackets, same-sex couples, close brackets, Act 2013, a positive action of the Conservative government in the last 13 years? To quote gov.uk, it allowed same-sex couples to marry, whether in a civil ceremony or a religious one, where the religious organisation allowed such marriages. Do I think it's a positive action of the Conservative government in the last 13 years? Yeah, OK, all right, we found one. We found one! 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC. Hey, by the way, it has been mentioned on this show already, but I do 3 podcasts, one of which is a best of old shows. Clips put together with my own sticky fingers. It's out on Monday. It's a half an hour long. I think you'll love it. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. It's called The Nick Abbott Habit.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Okie dokie. And I can't stand him.
The Masters, is that what they're calling those little competitions? The Masters, it's darts. Jill says, no, read that one. Laura, maybe. Laura says, Biden wants to take a leaf out of Putin's book. Get a body double. That way Joe Biden can look sprightly and on the ball all the time. Yeah, well, him and Trump too. Because, Donald Trump's a bit every now and again. Sort of loses his place. I don't know, maybe maybe the tanning lotion is seeping into his brain. Tottenham, hello, Saul.
Oh, hello. I just thought I'd share something positive
that
the Conservatives have done for me.
Go on.
So, during COVID, there was all this. I remember there was this, like, Rishi Sunak came on and went, well, maybe it's time everyone should think about retraining. Yeah. And I was one of the artists, I was one of these musicians and artists that was all my money, like entertaining people, going around the country entertaining, and that just basically, that was no longer. And I remember listening to lots of very, very pissed off people saying, what am I going to do? Retrain? I'm a musician, I'm an artist, I'm a this, I'm a...
Yeah.
And anyway, but I took the gauntlet. I thought, well, actually, I like fabricating stuff. And then I found out that basically what he'd done, which I think it was Rishi Sunak, is he basically made like 2 years of like this higher education in things like skills and stuff. These courses cost like $8,000 a year or something. And he gave 2 years of it, level 2 or 3, completely for free. And so...
He gave. I mean, the way you put it is he's dipping into his own pocket. But
well, I don't know. It was free. So basically, I signed up for these 2 years of courses, which would cost quite a bit of money. And I remember turning up on the day, and I was with a load of other people. We all just looked at each other and went, "Has anyone paid for this course?" And we all looked at each other and went, "No."
Oh, it was a course in doing what?
Fabrication, engineering, welding, everything to do with like that sort of world of, fabricating products or whatever you want to fabricate, basically.
You became a welder.
So yeah, in that realm, engineering with fabrication and welding and production sort of thing. This was the course I did anyway.
Okay.
And anyway, so I actually have got myself, a job out of this.
Doing what?
Working for a company in this whole, working in this whole environment, and it's. I mean, for all the things that I keep on wanting to, still sort of, I sort of feel like I've got like Rishi Sunak to thank for it. I mean, I feel, so yeah, that is something positive that he personally did that I can't argue against.
Right. Well, he personally didn't do anything of the sort. You keep saying it as though he is paying for it himself.
Well,
we are paying for it.
Well, okay. We all are paying for it, but I mean, hopefully I'll give it back. It will go back somehow in Texas because I'm going to get taxed high help for this. But it's just yeah. So
I mean, what you come up with is the basic minimum that somebody who is running the country could do in the circumstance of the shutting down of the whole of the economy.
You're right. Absolutely.
And then actually actively ruining the lives of people who had wanted to be in the arts, which is one of the things that we do in this country that we can punch above our weight in. That poster that I believe you were referring to was of a ballerina. And the slogan, and this poster was quickly deleted because of the backlash that came from it. The slogan was something like, Tatiana doesn't know it yet, but her next job's in IT, as she was pulling on her ballet shoes. Well, that's not what Tatiana wanted to hear.
I remember it now. I remember it. It was so awful. I remember.
Yeah.
That somehow... I mean,
so adult education, that they didn't shut it all down, that's what you're giving them credit for?
I'm giving them credit. I think Rishi Sunak should have just maybe he's a better education. He would have been a better education secretary. Education that we've never had. I mean, anyway, it's something positive.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll bank that one. I won't bat it back at you. We'll bank it. They didn't cancel all adult education, so that is one positive. Yeah. Now I'm not sure it's a positive compared to the previous Labour government, but it's a positive compared to what they could have done, which was close all avenues of furthering yourself by education. I mean, they could have done that. But by the same measure, they could have set fire to this entire country. And they didn't do that. But I'm not calling that positive either. But okay then. You learned a new skill. Appreciate it, Rishi.
Thank you.
Cynthia says, just been to see Depeche Mode for the third time this week. Made my bloomin' year, it has, says Cynthia. I know how much you love them. Not. But their arena and stadium tours sell out across Europe and North America after 43 years on the scene. Tell me which other act from the 1980s does that? Madonna. I bet Madonna still does that. From the 1980s, there's no end of acts from the 1980s who are still doing that. I mean, the Rolling Stones were from the 1960s, for crying out loud. Nobody outsells them. The 1980s. Yeah, boatloads of bands from the 1980s. Pretty much every band that made it in the 1980s could, if they wanted to, go out and sell out arenas and stadiums. Of course they could. I mean, Bon Jovi, they were from the 1980s. I bet people would crawl over broken glass to buy tickets to Bon Jovi in America. And as for Journey...
Rock and roll!
No, Steve Perry ain't singing no more. He gave it up. I don't know why he gave it up with a voice like that, crying out loud, but he did. Walthamstow. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Nick. How are we doing?
Good, thanks.
Nice. Listen, I know the last caller just said that we should have Rishi as education secretary or whatever. I'm a teacher, and we've had enough of them. We don't need, Gavin Williamson.
Oh,
what a beaut. And Michael Gove.
Gavin Williamson's a raving genius. Nobody has any idea how he rose so high with having achieved so little.
On the greasiest of polls, awful man, horrible. Tony Blair. You remember one other thing about Tony Blair other than the weapons of mass destruction, and that's D-Ream, of course. With Things Can Only Get Better. That was his theme tune, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, with that space hippie off the telly. Oh, look at the stars. Oh, they're amazing. You know that guy.
Yeah. I don't remember who that was, but yeah.
Yeah, the space hippie off the TV. He stands on a mountaintop and they have a helicopter shot going all the way around him while a wind machine blows his hair. And he's always going, look at the sky. Isn't it amazing? You know that guy? The space hippie off the telly.
Oh, yeah, Brian Cox.
Is the right answer. Yes, hey. Brian Cox. Finally, we got there. Not that Brian Cox, the other one.
Yeah, the good one, that's the actor. Now, you see, he's good. And the reason I phoned was to just talk about Prime Minister's questions, actually, because I looked at it, I watched it yesterday, and I'm worried that Keir Starmer is slipping in his kind of professionalism. He was saying things like the more they slag him off, the more they cheer and stuff. And I don't want to hear Keir use language like slag. You know? Right. He's better than that, surely. And obviously the House of Commons just every 2 seconds has to stop for Lindsay Hoyle.
Oh, I tell you what, that guy is really getting my goat. He seems to stop Keir Starmer way more than he stops Rishi Sunak. And it's all... and Keir Starmer can't get to the end of a sentence, at the end of which will be some sort of punchline that he has either written himself or has been written for him, or he's thought it up off the top of his head. So he's going to a point, and halfway through every blooming sentence he utters, you got the speaker bouncing up and down, telling everybody to shut up or you can go out and I'll send you out, and all of that. God, he's just awful, that bloke. I say get the last one back. He at least he was entertaining and had great felicity with the language.
Yeah, but I mean that's what the government, that's what's being modelled to the citizens of this country as the way to hold yourself, and
it isn't. Whatever they're doing, do the opposite, kids.
Yeah, run the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Nick. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Thanks a lot, Dan. Said his bit, and he knew that time was up, and he said bye-bye. Excellent call. David says, I know one thing that's got better since the Tories have been in power, and that is the position of the Labour Party in the polls. Yeah, that's right. The position of the Labour Party in the polls. Correct, Amundo. Well, I have detailed files on that. The Prime Minister approval rating, they asked, do you strongly approve, slightly approve, slightly disapprove, strongly disapprove, or you can't think of anything to say? And you can't think of anything to say was the response of 25% of the people that were expressing a preference. Can you believe that?
No.
25% could not determine whether they slightly, strongly approved or disapproved of the dear leader. But other than that, other than those the people who said not a clue, strongly approve of the Prime Minister 5%.
What?
5. Slightly approve 20%. So, maths fans, that's 25%. And add that to the people who couldn't make their mind up or didn't understand the question, which is another 25%. That means 50% approve, or disapprove rather, of the drear leader. 25% approve, 50% disapprove. Titchy soon out. I'm going to use that. And the latest voting intention is Labour on 48, up 3 from the previous week. Tories on 23, no change. Reform down 1 on 10. The Lib Dems down 2 on 9. The Greenies, no change on 5 for the Groovy Greenies. Groovy. And the SNPists, as always, on 3. I think the Greens should be way higher than that. But as long as the right-wingers keep fighting like rats in sacks, then that suits me just fine. Because that's normally the trick that the left pull. They grip each other in like a wrestling hold and then fall to the ground, writhing, while the right-wingers just step nimbly over them to take the tape. It's the other side that are doing that now. About blooming time.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I am not one of your fans!
Carol texts, I totally agree with you about Oppenheimer. I found it turgid and I'm not dim, says Carol. I have a master's degree, but I much preferred Barbie. I thought Oppenheimer was a film made for men and, in my opinion, included a totally needless sex scene. I can't understand why the film has been so lauded. I think it's a case of the Emperor's new clothes. OK, a couple of things. I found it turgid as well. It was a bit of a slog, really. And I totally agree with you about the needless sex scene. I think that films should just stop doing that. I mean, we know they're not actually, doing it. So it's impossible to get past that, for me. And it's just, I don't know, I just find it a bit like, just get on with the story, for crying out loud. Why are you showing us this? Awful.
Disgusting.
And, made for men, maybe. There was not much, I don't think, the first time through, I watched it in two parts. First night, I bailed after about an hour and a half. I thought, I just can't take this anymore. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be an exciting, like a drama about who can be first to build a big bomb that explodes. But it wasn't that at all. It was, I think it was a visual interpretation of a man having a nervous breakdown, or whatever his problem was. And I thought, this is not what I expected I was in for. I thought it was going to be, because it was sold as a big blockbuster. But it doesn't look like a blockbuster at all. It looks like an art film. So I felt a bit cheated in that regard. So I came back to it the next day and watched the second half of it. And it didn't really change, in my opinion. And then when it ended, I thought, oh, is that it? I'll just go back to the beginning, because I'd rented it off the internet. So I thought I'll try and get my money's worth. I'll go back to the beginning and see how it started. And then an hour later, I was still watching it, thinking, it's much improved now that I know what I'm in for. And it is actually quite brilliant. But as long as you're not expecting something else, which is what I was. I was expecting it not to be like that at all. So if at first you didn't like it, and I know this is probably not the advice that you want to hear, but I would try watching it again, having got used to what it is that the film is about, knowing that it's not going to be, an exciting race, and it's more like a visual interpretation of a man who appears to be losing his mind. But extraordinary for that, and that alone. And you don't get many explosions, at all. In fact, if you didn't know who Oppenheimer was, then there's precious little in that film to actually tell you. I mean, mostly it's a courtroom drama about whether he's a commie or not. Not what I would think would be a major release blockbuster, which is how it was sold to the general public. And if I'd gone to see that in the cinema, I'd have been furious. Because I would want to have stopped after an hour, and there'd be still 2 more hours of this thing to go. I'd probably have walked out. But that's the beauty of seeing it at home. You can pause it and come to it the next day. Better. 0345 6060 973. And on that subject, here's a call in Canada. Hello, Nick.
My mates, we got to go see this. It's wonderful. We got to go see it in 70mm IMAX. So we paid a fortune for tickets and lined up in the rain, as you have to do in Vancouver. And we watched it, and it's a perfectly okay film. I didn't think it was any better than the version they made about 10 years ago with Paul Newman and whoever it was. I think it was called Fat Man, a little boy, which is again about building a bomb.
Oh, really?
And I was thinking to myself...
I didn't know that. Hadn't heard that.
Yeah, no, Paul Newman played the general, and I can't remember who played Oppenheimer, but it was basically the same story without the courtroom bit.
Oh, right.
So therefore only an hour long. But I was thinking, why did they make this in 70mm IMAX?
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I don't see any reason why they made it in that.
Mystifying.
I could have watched that on the back of a... Yeah, I could have watched that on an aeroplane on a 13-inch
exactly.
screen, and I would have got just as much out of that.
Because it was sold... Yeah, exactly. Because it was sold as an IMAX mega release, I thought this is going to be a visual spectacle. I thought we were going to get so many explosions and, so much excitement is going to be on screen. But it wasn't that at all. It was very, very... kind of insular. I mean, most of the shots were a close-up, sort of fisheye lens of this weird-looking bloke's face with these giant blue eyes, and him sort of
smoking a fag and wearing a hat.
Yeah, and him sort of his brain sort of disassembling itself before our eyes. Him sort of having a nervous breakdown, but 50 foot wide. And I know why Tom Cruise was upset, because he released what was, not the best of action movies, but it had some incredible stunts in it and was much more appropriate for an IMAX release. Apparently, he was furious that the studios were giving Oppenheimer IMAX time and had ditched Mission Impossible, because it came out a little bit earlier, and Tom Cruise wanted all that IMAX time that they'd given to Oppenheimer, and I'd have to say that it's more appropriate, really.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had nothing. There was nothing wrong with the film. It was a perfectly pleasant film. It will come up on my TV in a few months' time, and I'll watch it and enjoy it again. I
don't think pleasant is right. Pleasant is not right. It wasn't pleasant. It was kind of a hard slog to watch, because it was a visual representation of a man who is apparently losing his mind. I mean, that's what I read into it.
Yeah, I knew the story already. And it's an interesting look into the way McCarthyism was used by people for their own nefarious means and to get out their own grudges and what have you.
Right.
But I was sort of aware of most of that already.
Yeah, you could have watched it on a phone.
Yes. And I watched I watched on YouTube some breathtaking sort of projectionists talking about how they had to bring the film print in with a forklift, because it weighs about 3.5 tons. It was like, it's about 3 miles of film on a roll to show that thing.
Are they still doing that? I thought everything came on a computer chip now. Can't they just download it off the internet?
This thing was completely... If you watched that in IMAX in a theatre, you watched a roll of film, like I said, literally 2.5 miles long.
God.
Running at 8,000 frames a second to get the clarity of it, what have you. And,
that don't make no sense. It had to be on one
roll so that they couldn't, Christopher Nolan demanded the absolute purity. It was, you're all going to get to watch a virgin print of this thing, And I was thinking, I could have watched it on my phone. I would have got everything. I could have watched it I could have just listened to it and still got the point of the story.
And then you wouldn't have had to stare at that frightening face for 3 hours. Right, okay, thanks, Nick. Cheers, mate. Gotta go. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, it was bizarre. I mean, I guess that what with COVID and everything, and then they had the actors' strike and the writers' strike, I suppose they haven't really got up to speed yet. So they perhaps were limited with what was available as to what was going to be the big blockbuster release that year. And they had Barbie, which I maintain was a lot of fun. Don't ask me what happened. I've got absolutely no memory of it whatsoever, but I do recall being amused. I'd had a beverage or two.
Booze.
It was during the Christmas period, so I may have been thoroughly refreshed. But yeah, it was good fun. But I am really glad that I didn't put Oppenheimer on my Christmas to watch list, because that would have been a downer. And you don't want a downer on Jesus' birthday. 0345 6060 973. Let me see now. Well, there's not quite enough time. Well, all right. I'll take this one right here. It's been waiting too long. Oldbury. Hello, Ranjit.
Hey, Nick. You ain't going to crash me into the news, are you? Listen, I've got a lot to say about that call, to be honest with you.
All right. I'll put you on hold.
Okay, mate.
All right. Okay. There you go. Another satisfied customer. Ross texts, Peppa Pig World has attracted more visitors during this government's term. Well, that is true.
Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig World it has
yes.
Peppa Pig
is the right answer. Well done, Bodger. Very good. Yeah, that guy is going to sacrifice himself for his country. He's going to put on a uniform and answer the call-up. Yeah, sure you will. It'd be straight round to his private GP for an excuse me note. He'll be on the phone to his best buddy, Donald Trump, to ask him how he got out of the conscription. A heel spur, apparently. Spence says, I know you're a movie fan. Did you know that the girl killed by the shark at the start of Jaws had dandruff? They found her head and shoulders on the beach. Zara says, 6 years ago you named my grandson Baby McBabyface. Did I? He was named Alex instead. Well, that's a relief. Now he's 6 and he's learning to read. He's doing very well with numbers. Do you think he could now take over as Prime Minister? Would your listeners vote for him? He's very cute and has lots of ideas that this country would benefit from, like pencils for all children, and his brother loves spiders. Good policies, I think, says Zara. Well, I think it's worth giving a go, Zara. I mean, it couldn't get any worse. What do you say, Budge?
I can't
comment on that. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he's too busy getting fighting fit.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Shut up.
0345 6060 973. Esther texts, maybe Trump has eaten a lot of carrots. They turn you orange if you eat enough. No, I think he's gone through orange and he's sort of, he's gone terracotta. Very, very strange. It looks like he's rubbing his face with, well, don't think I can even mention what I think it is on the air. Oldbury, Ranjit.
Oh, yeah, Nick, you're all right, mate.
Yes, good,
you
thanks.
Know what? Yeah, you know that caller, Malcolm. He was a proper classic today, mate. You know what? You know, out of all the times
which one? Which one was that?
The one that was on about the foreigners taking over our universities.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I want to talk about conscription, but let me just mention about people like... Remember when I said to you, and I've been saying it for months now, there's more dinglings than ever under the Conservatives, right?
Yes.
And, you know, I think it was Prince Edward he got into, I don't know which university, with D's and E's. Yeah, so it's all about the money, right? Yeah, and he probably studied something like trees. Yeah.
Well, trees are very important.
What? Okay, you can study Elvis.
Yes.
You can study,
Elvis is very important.
Okay, you can study any kind of thesis, right, and get a degree, letters after your name, and you probably become a tax inspector or something like that. Yeah. Or you know,
do a talk show on the radio. Yeah.
No, but you studied and you know what you're on about. So in a few years' time, people like Malcolm, will be phoning in and saying, oh my God, these foreigners are taking over all our jobs.
All right, Ranjit, never mind about slagging off other callers. What was it?
Okay.
What did you want to say?
Okay. You know conscription, yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay? You know, basically, right, during the First World War, yeah, okay, and the Second World War, working class boys, yeah, forged their ages when they were 14, 15, saying they were 17, 18, and joined the army because they were patriotic.
Because they didn't know what they were getting into, yeah.
They did not, and there was going to be cannon fodder.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what they've done, right? And like you said, Donald Trump, he faked something about his feet that were he couldn't join the army.
Spur, yes.
Yeah, and then Bodger Johnson says, "Oh yes, I'll go and join the army." Like you say,
could not find a uniform in his size. Sadly, he has to bow out. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like now, I mean, in 1982 when we left school, when the Falklands happened, right? Me and my mates who went to the Army Careers Office and says we want to enlist. It was probably a bit more childish than anything else, but we had the right spirit. Okay.
Did you actually want to enlist?
Yeah, we did. I was only 16.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But we didn't know what we was, we said, well, call of duty for your country, the Argentinians have invaded the Falklands or whatever, and we was quite serious, so when we went there, they said, mate, we're not enlisting and we would go back to school, boys. That's what they told us.
Well, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, the working class have always made this country what it is. And today, if they was going to introduce conscription, and my children are at that age, I'd send them abroad. I'd say you're not fighting other people's wars for no reason, because if anything, the politicians should go out to war first.
Yes. Yeah? Well, we'll give them a pair of boxing gloves each, and they can duke it out if they've got a problem with each other.
Yeah, 40 years ago, Frankie Goes to Hollywood released that film, that single, Relax, yeah? Remember that Two Tribes video where they had the two, one Russian and one American in the boxing ring? You want to do a war, mate? Do it that way.
Yeah. Do it in
Don't make fools out of us.
In a classic 1980s dance video. Yeah, do that.
Yeah. So that's it. No. But they make what it is. The Tories now, right, are coming up with so much rubbish. Yeah.
It's just that no one is going to conscript anybody. It's part of this. Hang on a minute. It's part of the war on woke. They want to just say something that they know will get a furious reaction, so they can say, "Oh, well, young people, they're just too woke to fight." And that is the headline that screamed from the front page of the Daily Telegraph. And so that's the message that's gone around to all of those the little workers who will now fashion that argument over and over and over again. And it's not a woke issue per se, it's an old-young issue. They want to cement in the support of the old because the 65-pluses are the only demographic that intends to vote Conservative. And so they want to make absolutely sure that they are motivated to go out and vote Tory. And so that's what this war on woke thing is about. It's not a war on being open-minded. It's a war against the young.
I know, but the thing is, look how many people today, right, have tried to, I don't know if they've been trying to wind you up, trying to support the Conservatives.
Yeah, a couple of them have tried to wind me up. Yeah, a couple.
A couple have tried to wind you up, right? I think you've been side-winded a couple of times tonight, yeah?
No, not really. I haven't been wound up at all.
Okay, the thing is, right, what's happening is now, people need to be educated, right? And you got to, like you said, what's happened in the last 14 years, yeah? Okay, if the Tories would love to go back to square one because the waiting list for the hospitals was at their lowest, right? Debt was hardly anything compared to what we got now, right? So these people are salting the earth, yeah? And it's going to take probably 3 election cycles before we get back
on an even keel. Yeah, I think you're quite right. Yeah, certainly not in the first one. And everybody will blame the Labour Party the very second they take power for everything that is wrong with the country.
And you had one caller and say, 5 years people forget stuff. I mean, people have forgot what Donald Trump done 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, on January the 6th.
True, yeah.
Well, it's what.
It's what you're told. People remember what they see every day, and the vast majority of the press in this country is run by right-wing, offshore, foreign billionaires who are in lockstep with the Conservative Party because with them, they can guarantee that they're going to keep all their money and keep all their power. And so they will level their cannons at the Labour Party the very second they get into power and blame them for all that ails the country. And there's just enough people over a 5-year period that will believe them.
You know, on a Sunday, I go to the pub with my mates, right? And we got a mixed crowd, yeah? And all of them, they start talking about, too many foreigners. And I said, your bloody granddad was a foreigner, right?
Ranjit, seriously, you need to go out with different people. And on that positive piece of advice, that's all the time that we have. Thanks for that, Ranjit. If you go to the pub and that's what the people are saying to you, then go to a pub with different people. Or pick a different pub. Or have you considered giving up alcohol?
No.
No. Stu says, here's a factoid. In The Wire, the character you mentioned was Snoop. That's right. She was played by Felicia Pearson, who was a convicted murderer in real life and played a fictionalised version of herself on The Wire. Yeah, you know all that criticism that I was mentioning about not being able to understand a single solitary word she said? Yeah, I take all that back. She was practically perfect in every way. And on that subject, Gareth says, The Wire was amazing. One of the best of drama to ever come out of America since Donald Trump's presidency. Yeah, I think it predated Donald Trump's presidency. He says, did you know that the hit woman you referred to was an actual real-life gangster? Indeed, a lot of the actors were, yeah. Yes. It's extraordinary that he, David Simon, I think, managed to get all of those untrained actors to act so believably. I mean, it really didn't look like any of them were acting at all. They're a remarkable achievement. But it did require subtitles when Snoop was on screen, no doubt about it. 0345 6060 973. Let's have San Francisco. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Nick. You said something that kind of struck a nerve with me. I had a friend, a work colleague, who was also a singer-songwriter. And she had a beautiful voice, and she put together a CD, actually an album, with her band. And I listened to it. Her voice was great, but I couldn't hear the lyrics.
Yeah, well, that's...
And I pulled her aside afterwards. Yeah. I pulled her aside afterwards, and I said, the most important instrument in that band, in your band, is your voice.
Right.
And what comes out of your mouth.
Yes, but I think that
I can't copy the lyrics.
Right, I get what you're saying, but if try to tell me what the lyrics are to any Led Zeppelin song. I bet you can't. Impossible. Yeah. I mean, it's just a noise. They're using their voice as an instrument rather than as a method of delivering lyrics. Nobody can understand a word that Robert Plant sings. It's impossible. Right. You could say the same for Mick Jagger or anybody, really. Most
Mick
people
Jagger,
you can't...
Nick, I can hear, right. But one example is Taylor Swift. Now, her lyrics are dense.
And stupid,
you almost have to study up on her lyrics before you see one of her shows.
I've never knowingly heard a piece of music by Taylor Swift.
Well, look, I'm kind of a fan. I saw
You're a Swiftie.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't say that, but I sat through the concert, the movie she made of it.
Oh yeah.
And some of the songs are great, and others are so overpowered by all of the production that
she's probably you're probably not in her target demographic, Mike. I mean, that's just me going out on a limb, but I don't think that you're the audience she's aiming at.
No, but the problem is, people will say, well, you're too old, Grandpa, you just don't get it. And that's not true, Mike.
No, of course not.
In my body, the thing that works, the other things don't work, but the thing that works well, most
Keep it clean.
Important as my hearing. It's great.
Right. Yeah.
And if I can't hear, I can't hear something.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
Right. Okay. But see, to me, music is different. I don't ever listen to the lyrics, really. I mean, I was surprised when the Rolling Stones stopped playing Brown Sugar because of its apparent racist content. I always thought that Brown Sugar was about drugs. I don't listen to lyrics. It's just noise to me. And, there's many artists who you absolutely cannot understand anything they say. Elton John is a bit like that. And Robert Plant is really like that. No one can understand a word that Robert Plant sings. At all. Ever. Maybe a word here and there. But, it's like... it's just an instrument to me. It's just part of the noise that they're making. But on a film or a television production, it would help if you could understand what they're saying. If, for the entire film, they're not talking like this and just failing to open their mouth when they're speaking and, I've got no idea why they really do it. I mean, it's just so blooming annoying. And you change all of the controls on your stereo and absolutely nothing makes any difference. And you just think, what? You think, painful. They've got to do something about that. I mean, really. How they're not hearing that when they're editing films, that you can't understand a blooming word that anybody says, I don't know. Maybe they're using a stereo system that costs, as much as a yacht. Quite possibly. Where you can hear it there in the perfect acoustic surroundings of your studio, but people ain't watching the film there. They're watching it on their broken television in the corner of their living room, for crying out loud.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
We are running late, so let's have a call in Japan, Osaka. Hello, John.
Hi, Nick. A bit of a hard time this week, to be honest. I've got the coronavirus again. Second time.
No.
So I'm locked away in a room in my house, away from my wife and baby, and I can't go to work for 2 days next week at least.
Right.
The
Japanese are very good with, or they're very used to wearing masks, aren't they? You see Asian tourists in London, but this is way before COVID, and they'd be walking around wearing masks. And I always used to think, oh, come on, the pollution's not that bad. But that's not the reason why they used to wear it. They used to wear it because presumably they caught a cold on the plane coming over, and they were too polite to pass it on.
Yeah, it's absolutely normal. Before Corona happened, in any office, about half the people will always be wearing masks, because one of the reasons is, healthcare is not free here, and you don't get sick days. So if you get a cold and you have to take time off work, that's juicy wages you're missing out on. And then also out of consideration to other people around them, say they've got some of the cold in their house, they don't want to be giving that to other people. And then a lot of people just say, oh, I'm shy, I don't want to show my face. And then also another thing is there's a lot of hay fever is really bad. So there's just a whole myriad of reasons. It's just a normal thing. I started this new contract at this new place. I'm a freelancer. And what you were saying about them mumbling in that film really resonated, because everyone there mumbles really bad and they're wearing masks. So
So you don't even get to lip read.
No, and obviously Japanese is not my first language as well, so that's adding to my challenge. Anyway, so have I built up a bit of sympathy so far?
No.
Oh dear. Okay, I was hoping on that, because I've got what I've got right is I've got another nickname for Rishi Sunak, and it's a little bit tenuous. So I was hoping,
Well, I've got Titchy Suit Size. We've got Rishi Soon Out, which is a new one on me, and I quite like that.
Yeah.
Rishi Soon Out. I've got Tetchy Sunak and Titchy Sunak. And what have you got?
Yeah, Sunak was really good, I thought. Well, this one is a bit outdated as well, and it's a bit foreign, so it's just two kind of mitigating factors. But I'll start with, all right, so I'll teach you a bit of Japanese first. Okay, so the word for snack, as in that you eat, snack in Japanese, is sunak. Okay?
Is it?
And, yeah, it is. The word for tasty or delicious is oishi. Right? And oishi sounds a little bit like rishi. Okay? And remember, he came out with the meal vouchers, yeah, a few years ago.
Tasty Snack, is that his name? More or less translated into Japanese?
Well, because remember, he did the Eat Out plan, didn't he?
Yeah.
And when I heard about that, in my head it just occurred to me, it's Rishi Sunak's Oishi Sunak. That's good, isn't it? And I told my wife, and she wasn't the least bit interested.
Yeah, she divorced you straight away, yeah.
Yeah, well, just like most things I say, she just ignored it, which was, so it wasn't too much of a shock.
I'm thinking of doing the same myself.
Oh, dear. Well, so anyway, yeah. Oishi Sunak, how's that? Oishi Sunak.
Okay, all right. Thanks for a lesson in Japanese. Educational, this show, no?
No.
0345 6060 973. Thanks a lot, John. The tasty snack. Rishi Sunak is the snack you can eat between meals without ruining your appetite. That's just a fact. Now then, let's see. Belsize Park. Judy.
Hello. I'm in such a fury with you.
Oh, no.
And I'm not going to apologise.
What have I done now?
For weeks and weeks and weeks, all I've been hearing you say is that everybody over 50 is going to be voting this lot in.
Yeah, over 65.
I would not vote them in again, ever, not, never, not ever.
I'll give you £10, Judy.
I would not do it for £1 million.
I'll give you £1 million.
You can give me £1 million. I would not do it. And I don't know. I am way, way old, older than 50 and older than... Clive's just done a trail saying Titchy What's-It is going to be applying to people over 50 to vote for him. Yeah. I know many, many, many people of my age, and I'm over 80, and not one of us would dream of voting them back in again. And the other thing about younger people, I feel so, so sorry for the up that we've made of this world and passed on to them to clear all the mess up behind us.
Well, you should apologise.
Brilliant. All these poor young kids, they had all their A-levels mucked up. They had this rhythm thing, deciding what exam results they were getting. They had their university places ruined.
Yep.
They've got fees to pay for God knows what. They can't find anywhere to live. They can't rent flats. The rents are too high.
Yep.
And if you leave me here, you'll just finish the programme and go into your break, and I'll be carrying on shouting at you.
And they're all hopped up on chai tea and rice cakes. Can you believe that?
I want you to apologise to young people. We do not think badly of young people.
Right.
I feel so.
Despite the music they listen to, that racket.
That's their choice of music. It's not hurting anybody. They're not doing anybody any harm.
Right.
They were locked into blooming lockdown. They were kept off school. They couldn't see their friends. They couldn't have their hobbies. They couldn't go out and about.
What about when you go to the gym and they're just sitting on pieces of equipment, gulping?
I don't go to a gym, and if they want to go to a gym and just sit on bits of pieces, let them.
No, it's incredibly annoying. They just sit on a piece of equipment, just gulp at their phone for 15 minutes, and you ask them, are they doing any more? have you got
Who invented these phones that we'd given them?
Have you got a lot to do? And they'll say, yeah, I've done like 4 more sets.
Excuse me, it was not young people who invented these phones. We invented them.
Oh, I
we
see.
gave them to them.
It's my fault.
Yes, partly it is your fault.
Wow.
It's all our faults.
Yes.
Anybody over about 35, 40, it's all our faults. We've inflicted. We are the ones that sit on buses and give 2-year-olds a blooming iPad thing to have on their laps to play with, because we can't be bothered to talk to them even.
Yeah, well, those 2-year-olds have got it coming.
So I'd like you to apologise to people of my age that you keep on and on and on and on about. And you don't know, you're young. You're relatively young.
Yeah. I would not have pegged you over 80.
I am 84.
Wow. Okay.
But I hate people that say I'm 84. I don't like that either. I don't like anybody.
I mean, you think you look at the number, you write it down on a piece of paper, and you look at it and you think, I have nothing to do with that number.
I know.
Right?
I know. It's I tell you what, the only thing at the moment I agree with you about is I've met people and I don't like them.
Yeah, particularly the old ones. Am I right?
I'm phoning to tell you to stop having a go at young people.
Well, I have, or young and old, just people in general. No, you are quite right, and here is a fulsome apology.
I am very sorry that I screwed up. Totally I mean, I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I'm sorry.
Does that count?
Do you understand? Because I'm so furious that I can hardly speak. But we have how these kids are going to get this world sorted out after we've all gone and left them in the mess that they're in.
They better get a lick on, Judy. That's all I can say, because time's running out, and literally and figuratively. Thanks a lot, Judy. That's telling me. 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 That's telling me.